That's what today is all about, is all of these survivors across the entire state of New York getting their chance for justice.
The stroke of midnight will mark the dawn of a new era for the survivors of child sex abuse. Good evening, I'm Ashley Rowe. Jeff is off tonight. New York State's Child Victims Act goes into effect in 1 hour. Lawyers plan to file hundreds of lawsuits against suspected sex abusers. And while the new law does not solely focus on the Catholic Church, many of the lawsuits will be against members of the Diocese of Buffalo. Just a few hours before the new law takes effect, Bishop Richard Malone offered victims an apology.
At this time, it's uncertain how long it will take to respond to all the claims of the Child Victims Act. Our primary concern is to do the right thing for the victim survivors of abuse, and at the same time, ensure that the mission of our church continues.
Bishop Malone laid out a list of changes the diocese is making to ensure the safety of children. You can see some of those changes at WKBW.com. 7 Eyewitness News reporter Nikki Dementri is live at a law office in Williamsville where many of these first claims will be filed. Nikki?
Good evening, Ashley. It's a day so many survivors have been long waiting for. And as the clock ticks closer to midnight tonight, that's when that look back window when the Child Victims Act begins, anxiousness looms. And we're here right now at the law offices of Stede Boyd. I'm going to step out of the picture so you can take a look at what's happening right now. There are 4 teams of paralegals here in this building that are preparing for filings that will be filed right at midnight, all 83 of them. Now, for the next year, survivors of sexual assault will be able to file in civil court against the accused, regardless of their age and when the abuse happened. Attorney Stede Boyd held a press conference earlier today outlining the dozens of cases his law firm will file against the Diocese of Buffalo. We caught up with him a few moments ago.
I've shed more tears in the last 6 months since the Child Victims Act passed than I probably shed in the last 40 years of my life, because these stories are heartbreaking.
There are also survivors here tonight waiting and watching as their stories will hopefully be heard for the first time in court.
We have the power now. We have the control. And I think that's what this is about. They can't throw this under the rug and just keep sending these priests to different parishes. That doesn't work.
And at midnight, Boyd and Jeff Anderson and Associates will be filing 83 cases against the Diocese of Buffalo alone. And that's just tonight. They and other attorneys across the state will be filing dozens more cases in the days and weeks ahead. Now, I want to bring in our chief I-Team investigator, Charlie Speck. Charlie has told many of the stories that are now heading towards litigation. He's also shown the truth behind closed doors of what the Diocese of Buffalo have been doing for decades. Charlie, thank you for being with us here tonight. I want to ask you first and foremost, talk to us about, now that these cases are heading to court, what do you expect to find out?
Well, we're going to get really an unprecedented look here into the inner workings of the Diocese of Buffalo here. In effect, the days of the Diocese of Buffalo policing itself are over. The court system is now going into effect. That means that the diocese no longer has the ability to choose its own judges, no longer has the ability to choose its own investigators, no longer has the ability to control the amount of information that gets out to the public about these abuse cases. We saw a little peek inside of the secret archives of the Diocese of Buffalo earlier this year, thanks to Siobhan O'Connor, the whistleblower. Well, the door to that secret archives through this Child Victims Act process is going to be blown off the hinges here as these lawsuits move forward.
And Charlie, I want to also ask, Bishop Malone had a tape message today ahead of the Child Victims Act look back window starting. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, many people thought the bishop would sort of let this be the survivors' day and not really chime in. That did not happen. The bishop giving a message to survivors and to the wider diocese as a whole. He repeated many of the talking points that he has repeated over the last year and a half as this scandal has raged in in the diocese, among them that children are safe in the Diocese of Buffalo today. But keep in mind when evaluating that statement that there have been now 20 active priests in the Diocese of Buffalo in the last year who were suspended or removed from ministry, who up until we started reporting on this and survivors started coming out, were active priests in the Diocese of Buffalo. So it's still very much a problem that continues to be exposed in today's generation of priests and survivors.
Charlie, thank you. And we will remain here tonight at these law offices as the paralegals begin to file throughout midnight. We'll be alongside them. And Charlie, I know you will be sharing their stories tomorrow morning on WKBW throughout the morning, as well as our WKBW app and WKBW.com. Thank you so much, Charlie. For now, we're live in Williamsville, heading back to you in the studio.
Nikki, Charlie, thank you very much for your reporting tonight. Well, just hours before the one-year look-back window opens, the names of more clergy members who are accused of sexual abuse has been released. One of them is Father Gary Bagley, the longtime director of youth ministry for the church. Many of these priests have passed away, but some are still alive. And as we reported yesterday, a still active priest is accused of molesting a man when he was just 8 years old. A group of sex abuse survivors shared their stories today.
Where's the bishop? Where are the priests? Where are all the other good priests, quote unquote, that are out there? I know every priest is not a pedophile, but where are they?
This is a victory, but it is a victory predicated on a tragedy. Many, many personal tragedies, the tragedies of families, of lives lost. There are many survivors who are not with us today.
More claims will be filed at the Hogan Willig law firm in Amherst. We have devoted the entire front page of WKBW.com to the sex abuse scandal in the Buffalo Diocese and the lawsuits that will be filed under the Child Victims Act. Our coverage of the first claims filed under the Child Victims Act will continue tomorrow morning. As Nikki mentioned, stay tuned to 7 Eyewitness News from 4:30 to 7 a.m.